guys, welcome to the Science Shaping Beauty, the official podcast of the New York Society of Cosmetic Chemists, where we share everything you need in beauty and personal care product development, from formula to finish. I'm your host and NYSCC chair, Anushka Nadkarni. As we explore the breakthroughs shaping our industry, we are counting down to NYSCC Suppliers Day, May 19th and 20th in the New York City, the must-attend event for ingredients, insights, and inspiration. Let's dive in. My guest today is Mythili Nori, an NYSCC member for over a decade, a scientist, dear friend, and truly one of the kindest people I've ever met. Mythili brings a rare mix of deep expertise, steady humility, and care for people around her. I'm so honored to have her today. Thank you for doing this, Mythili, and welcome.
Thank you so much for that kind introduction, and it's my pleasure to be here.
We'll start with a little bit about yourself and just to kind of get to know you, get our viewers and listeners to get to know you better. Would you elaborate what exactly is your job or what do you do professionally?
Thank you for having me here in this studio. It's really a fantastic setup and resonating with your theme for this year's vision, breaking boundaries with beauty. And so to talk about myself, what I'm currently working at PSF organization, where I am leading the physical claim substantiation and method development for hair and body applications, where I combine instrumental testing and sensory evaluations for evaluating products. In addition to that, I also manage the texture hair platform, which has been a very integral part of our claim substantiation journey. Let me say that it has been very rewarding and yet very demanding because you are looking for innovative approaches for designing methods, substantiating claims, and also I would say setting up roadmaps for addressing other unmet needs. So what do you do with all these methods, right? So end of the day, you have to cater to customer projects, supporting launches or reanimate or revitalize your products and produce new data. The best part of my job, I have to say, lately has been how can I actually guide and coach the new scientists who join the group. That's been very rewarding as well, where I can actually coach them to think and develop their skills in claim substantiation so that it can ensure a product success.
That's amazing. I mean, and then going a little back for you, right? I'm sure claim substantiation wasn't something that was introduced to you right when you started off college. So I want to know, how did you start off this journey and what led you to this?
So before I actually answer your question, a little trivia about that. We are all our consumers, right? And I grew up in India. This will tell you how disconnected I was from this world. As a consumer, I would get inspired by looking at a commercial on the TV. I would look at a shampoo and I would buy it because it smells good, or I would get inspired by the commercial ad for a skin cream. So you can imagine that's where I start with the introduction to the industry. So I am, by education, I'm a chemical engineer. But very early on in my career, I definitely switched gears, where when I landed my first role was an organization called TRI Princeton. It's a research organization, delves into fundamental fiber science research, and also caters to a lot of projects for brands and suppliers in the industry. So it's that role which actually introduced me to the science and the chemistry behind this product development that shapes the industry. I learned so much, and I worked on such varied projects across different personal care categories. So I have to really thank my first manager, my colleagues, who really taught me the fundamentals, coached me, guided me, and really shaped all the learnings from there. It was almost like a school where I learned everything and shaped my career, and eventually led me to build that expertise in claim substantiation.
That's amazing. I always thank leaders and managers who lead you and not just tell you what to do.
Yes.
And it's so essential. So it's amazing. Going back, do you think you would do anything different?
No, absolutely not. I think I am very happy the shape that took for my career. Every experience that have got has definitely shaped my career quite a bit. Every experience you gain, you're going to learn something new, right? So every skill that you develop, it is adaptable, it is transferable. For example, if I say that my training in engineering enabled me to design in vitro methods better, and the experience of doing claim substantiation over the span of my career has enabled me to understand the products better, the chemistry which is driving product performance. So I'm able to translate them to customers with the help better technical solutions. So I would say this is a great road. And in addition to that, if I have to add, I also say that I have been extremely blessed to have met some wonderful people during my tenure in my journey. Of course, you always have setbacks in your careers, but these people, like, for example, my colleagues who are now my friends in the industry, my mentors within the organization or even outside the organization, they have been so instrumental in pushing me out of my comfort zone. One such thing was actually introducing me to NYSCC organization. I have met such wonderful people, including you, where they are coming from different diverse backgrounds, and you learn so much from each other, and introduced me to volunteering. And you little that I know that actually it will open pathways for teaching, which I never thought I will ever do in my career. So in a nutshell, I don't think I want to change anything. And I'm
That's
very happy with the
amazing.
outcome.
That's amazing. Yes, I do echo the NYCC part hugely because a lot of us don't realize how important the organization is and what all the organization has done for us. It has
Absolutely.
made us meet some great minds, and I totally echo that. So thank you for that. Now let's dive into claims and just kind of get to know better as to what is your day-to-day work at BASF, right? My question is, how would you best explain claim substantiation and its relevance in our industry?
That's a great question. Let's say if it's your B2C or a B2B company, both are catering to different kind of products, right? Claim substantiation is extremely pivotal because for your driving a product success, it has to be substantiated by claims backed by science and like evident data. In this day and age, which is actually quite influenced by social media, right? Consumers are continuously learning so much, and there are so many products out there. They are demanding transparency. They are looking for product efficacy. So to understand your product efficacy and to say that it delivers the promised benefits, it has to be backed by well-designed methods, this tailored to, for example, a product format that you're developing, or the target claim, or the demographic. So once the claims are validated, it actually builds a lot of trust with your customers and eventually your end consumers, which are just ourselves. And not only that, within your organization, it provides a toolbox for your technical teams, your marketing teams, or your sales team to finally enable for product success. So claim substantiation is very pivotal because data is important to drive your product success.
Let's dive more into categorization of claims, right? Would you say claim substantiation for hair is trickier than skin or the other way around?
Wow, that's a really good question. And it's also a very layered one. So let me begin to say that for each of the claim category you just mentioned, let be hair or skin, I think there are its own limitations or challenges, or also its advantages. So let's begin with hair care claim substantiation. So there are a lot of in vitro methods or techniques available which can enable you to evaluate on hair tresses in your lab. So it's able to screen technologies or your products and provide rapid feedback and kind of identify your optimal solutions, correct? Before you finally go to your final clinical or consumer perception or even salon trials. So it enables to speed up development, and it can also to identify your candidates quickly and, to provide consistency as well. But it will never replace your clinical or consumer perception data because, that's end of the day, consumer have to perceive the benefits. If I have to switch gears and think about skincare, it's a little more layered and comes with a little more complexity, I would say. So in skin, you're not only evaluating skin feel, right, like moisturization benefits or skin roughness or feel. You're also going into a little more of a long-term benefits like anti-aging claims. Okay, let me take a pause and say that now, again, there's a switch in the language. Now it's called pro-aging claims. So you can see that there is so much of complexity in skincare. So to achieve that, you have to really design a well-designed clinical robust protocol. how can you actually achieve that, right? So there are so many moving parts for it. So what is your target demographic? What is your sample size? What are your inclusion exclusion criteria for your panel? What are your measure endpoints, right? Like, is it immediate? For example, moisturization, it can be like immediate or 2 hours, 6 hours, 24 hours. For anti-aging or like pro-aging claims, it can lead to few weeks to few months of a steady plan. So you need to have appropriate controls, like it's your reference products or your test products. So I think all these are a lot of moving parts. So it's very important to have that robust clinical design, and that will enable to to produce a lot more reliable and perceptible results. So if I have to recap and think about, I would say both hair and skincare claims, they have their own limitation, and they are doable. I think they come with different. The complexity definitely differs for both of them. And I would say that if it's well backed by well designed methods and use appropriate techniques, you can definitely substantiate claims for both hair and care very robustly. And the end, as I said, and I want to reiterate that we're all consumers at the end. So if your product doesn't perceive the benefits, I think it's going to impact the product success, right? So I think that is why one size fits all never works in the industry. And each of us, like let's say we are all coming with the unique hair and biological hair and skincare blueprint. So because of that, everyone has very unique needs. You need tailored products, tailored claims to address these consumer needs.
Yeah, it's so rightly said that, even environment or external factors affect what you need at that hour, right? Because growing up in India, there were different shampoos that worked so well for me. And suddenly when I brought them over here, when I moved, they stopped working for me. So it's ever changing. And I think to that topic, my next question would be, the trends are ever changing, right? What people want to hear as claims are ever changing. How do you as a scientist keep up with those trends?
Yeah, our industry is so dynamic, right? So we are influenced by so many macro and micro trends. So they're constantly changing and extremely rapidly, I would say. So because of that, what I would think about as a claim scientist is how can you improve testing efficiency and speed to produce data faster. So when you say data is going to be the key driver for differentiation on the market against your competition, and also going to keep you ahead of the curve. But when I say that, how can you? This is already being done in the industry so far, where you are improvising techniques and high throughput techniques or automation, which enables you to improve measurement processes, produce data quickly, and identify solutions faster. And now let's talk about, when I say automation, let's address the elephant in the room. It's AI. We all are talking about AI. It is influencing every aspect of our life. So with AI comes a lot more demand from consumers, because there's a lot more customization happening and personalization. So how are you able to achieve that? And with respect to claims, I would say the diagnostic tools and probably data-backed AI tools can definitely enable formulators to speed up development. You can provide a lot of information about the ingredients, like physiochemical properties or sensory properties. So this can enable them to screen quickly and bring down the time on the bench to develop product. So I would say that is where it's shaping towards, as a claim scientist, when I look at it. And that's one part of it, right? The other part of it, how I keep going, and with the trends which are changing every day, is like what is actually taking inspiration from other industries, right? Look outside the personal care industry, and there's always been inspiration from food science or home care. Look for inspiration and adapt those techniques and novel approaches for improving your methodologies going forward. And for that, you have to always read scientific articles on conference publications. It enables you to keep up with what's happening currently, give you ideation for what next to come.
That's very fair. And I'm going to use methodology as a plug to my next question, right? Because I know there's a lot of method development that you as well do. So how often do you need to do method development for a certain project? And how do you go about that?
So let me first answer your second part of your question. And before I answer about method development, let me say that research is never linear.
Yes.
And method development, to go about method development, it's very important to clearly identify your scope and your objective of the claim that you're trying to substantiate. When I say that, how are you finding the right methods? Because with method development comes how are you, first and foremost, what you have to do is to set up your hypothesis and then translating claim with your hypothesis, and then a clear endpoints, measurable endpoints. And after that, what you do is to have a proper approach of finding an iteration study, identifying your appropriate controls. When I say controls, for example, for instance, for hair care, what are your hair types that you're evaluating? Is it straight hair? Is it curly hair? Or what are your damage? It can be a physical damage or a thermal damage or oxidative damage. So those are important to measure. And then when you come into an iterative study plan, is like, what is your sample size that you're testing on your technique, and what are your statistical significance that you're going to set up. So these are all your important parts for enabling you for method development. One thing I always continue to tell myself, or also someone who's starting off in claims, with method development, you always be prepared to pivot, because you have to might refine your scope, based on your initial results, and patience and persistence and reproducibility or iterations are key for method development. So you cannot get away from that. And once you enable that, the method development becomes a little more easier. And when your first question, how much I do as part of my job, is a very integral part of my job. And it can range from incremental method development, or also integrating new measurement points, or adapting existing techniques for customer projects, which are very diverse. And so you have to tailor to your project needs. So that's how much I apply, and it can be pretty varied.
Okay, that makes sense. I feel like R&D, method development, like everything in the lab that we do is so volatile and is so not going to be right on the first go, such type of a situation, right? I always hear R&D scientists will see the same thing. If the batch comes out good in the first go, it's always often luck, and it's all about reproducibility. And I think that just is the truth across the board for our industry. So thank you for that.
Maybe I can also add
Yes.
one thing, for method development. I always believe in 3 Rs. It is repeatability, reproducibility, and robustness.
Love that.
Which can also enable that, it's taking off your operator dependency.
Right.
So that's why the 3 Rs are very critical when it comes to method development, or also for claim substantiation.
Oh, that's a good one. I love that. Love that. Now a little bit of fun in your project, right? So is there any super fun project, of course, without taking names, that you've worked on and you'd like to share?
Every project is a lot of fun. Method development is also fun. Let me not say that, it's challenging at times, but it's always fun. With every project, you learn something new. And personally, what I do is to decode every project, like what went really well, what could have been improved, and what can I take for the next one. If I have to talk about a project, I always speak about textured hair quite a bit, but I want to pivot and talk about a customer project. We were actually proposing a unique technology from BASF for a customer project, but it had a very, very extremely tight timelines. So project management became extremely crucial for us. And for that, we had to leverage with cross collaboration across regions as a global company, and using their unique testing capabilities and testing on diverse hair types. So once we got the first set of results, it was definitely not what we anticipated. So because of that, again, coming to method development, what I said, you have to pivot.
Yeah.
So we immediately went back to the drawing board. We regrouped, we re-strategized, and now we proactively looked for alternate technologies. For example, we looked into concentration dependencies and, what can you look for synergistic potential between the technology, and also adapt and change some of our testing approaches. And then eventually at the end, we actually presented the results to the customer, backed by data. and for the next steps. If I have to think about that particular project, and there are two things which I always take away. The first is collaboration. Collaboration is such an important thing, right? No job you can do by yourself, not fully at least. And especially in claims, you are bringing different kind of people to the table, and everyone brings their unique strengths, and the ideation comes through. So collaboration is definitely important. And the second thing is transparency and proactive approach of delivering solutions to your customer. That always helps you engage that trust, and it goes a long way and gives you better project outcomes. So I think I would say those two are extremely important as you continue to go with your project success. And eventually you are always going to set your product for success. Whether it's whatever you're getting with the technology or not, or the success of the project. But I think you're going to keep moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just plug in, the fact that how as a child we would go up and buy stuff from stores, and I was introduced to Sephora much later in life because it wasn't as prominent as it is now in India. But just buying beauty stuff from the shelves, I would never imagine that there's so much that goes behind it, right? And now in the industry, I feel like, so the product development cycle is so huge, and there are so many hands on that product. It's never a one-man show. So completely iterate what you're saying. And I think it's the synthesis of that molecule to the marketing, to the R&D formulation, to the claims, and then, of course, marketing the product, this packaging. There's so much that goes into it. I love what we do. So now we'll move on to how beauty and science relates to you, and what does that mean to you, right? So my question is, if you had to define what good or meaningful beauty means in one sentence or more, what would it be and why?
One sentence. What meaningful beauty means to me. I would say beauty that represents you, who you truly are, unfiltered and authentic in every form. And that's what I think what meaningful beauty means. If I have to expand on that, and I would say that beauty isn't perfect. It is, you are trying to break boundaries. You are self-expression, breaking boundaries. And I think that it goes with the theme of this year, breaking boundaries and not trying to fit into the box, and redefining the boundaries and the setbacks that you have, and celebrating the perfectly imperfect version of you, irrespective of your gender, your race, your ethnicity or identity. So that's what meaningful beauty means to me. If I have to talk in this lingo, I would say #beauty unfiltered.
Love. That's amazing. In terms of advice, right, our industry is so overwhelming. There's almost every product that's launched that you can think of, and then there's more. And a product is launching every minute at this point, right? But how do you manage that it doesn't get to you sometimes? Because it does, honestly.
Yes. Yeah, there's so much going on, right? That's the beauty of our industry. It's always evolving. And if you can see how many kind of generational needs that we are catering to, from Gen X to millennials to Gen Zs and Alpha, and there will be so much more variability coming into play with customization and personalization. And that's what keeps the industry going. And you're continuously innovating to address these unmet needs and catering to different generational needs, right? So you need targeted formulations, targeted products. Even though that is an important part of the industry and how rapidly we are changing, there's also so much more information the consumer is being exposed to, right? They are consuming so much on YouTube, TikToks, Instagrams. So it's so much that can get, they can lead to a lot of misinformation. So it's very important for us to counter the misinformation and educate the customers, and direct them to the right products which are backed by data and science. So I think that's what is happening. You're kind of continuously removing that misinformation or disinformation, what is happening in the industry. For me, I think as a claims scientist, what keeps me going is that I always want to be a student, always continuously learning, what's actually happening in the industry, what trends are shaping up, and keeping up pace with the global regulations, right? And taking the best practices and keep moving forward.
That's amazing. I'll just say we need more people like you in claims. I think claims is so important, honestly,
Yes.
because that's a way that you kind of regulate
Yes.
also what the consumer wants, what the consumer needs. I feel like sometimes consumer thinks that we need everything.
Yes.
I have been there as well. So any packaging that makes sense to me is making sense to my skin, but that's not true. But I think people like you, scientists like you, who believe in the cause of regulating the consumer, but also the market,
The
I
market,
think
yeah.
is equally important. So thank you. Um, Mythili, you are also a mentor and a professor. So I would want to ask you one piece of advice, and I promise this is the last question, that you'd like to give to someone who's starting out in the industry.
I want to say that I'm not a professor, so let me correct by saying that I'm an instructor. Thank you for that. For any student or a recent graduate who's just starting out, I would say to keep yourself open and very adaptable. I know it's very challenging to the process of finding your first role. Every experience you gain is always going to help you in a long term. It is challenging, and it might not be the path that you have set forward to. So I would say be patient and very persistent in your efforts. Lean on to a lot of networks, like organizations like NYSCC, where you can find mentors who can help you guide, and because they have been there where you are here today.
Right.
And I would also say go think beyond your day-to-day work, right? So how can you improve yourself? Volunteer and build a lot of professional friendships. They're going to go a long way. And I would say when you volunteer, you are learning a lot of leadership skills and collaboration because you're learning from each other. So all these little things are going to help you in a long way. And eventually, it'll also bring you a lot of visibility in your career. And when I say that, and eventually you want to set the path forward by mentoring for who's going to come next. So I would say it's a very hard time. It could be challenging or it may not be linear for you, but you will definitely end up the place that you are because I did so.
That's amazing, Mythili. That was your last question. But a personal question from my side. How has this experience been for you?
I was nervous before, but I think it was very empowering.
Thank you. My last request is I'm going to do this thing where I'm going to have all my guests sign or just say something that your experience has been with the podcast, because this is a starting out situation for us for the NYSCC. And then towards the end of the season, we'll just pick all these chits and see what the good wishes were. So you have a small stick note and a pen there. If you could write something about your experience, that'll be great.
It's been very rewarding. And I would say
you.
I'm very happy to be your first guest for
Me
kicking off the series
too.
for you.
So again, thank you so much for doing this. I know you're always a call away, and I sometimes misuse that. But thank you for agreeing to do this. It means a lot. I think people like you really need to be heard, and we hope that we continue to do this with you as well.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's been a pleasure. And I'm very happy to be your first guest on your kickoff series for
Yay,
podcast.
amazing. So now, thank you for listening to the Science Shaping Beauty. If you like what you heard, be sure to download wherever you access your podcast. Visit nyscc.org for more information on our events and Suppliers Day. Registration is now open. We look forward to seeing you there. And until next time, keep shaping beauty with science.